Every time we look over in their eyes.
Yeah, about that. God dang! Hey! God! What the hell? No weapons on him.
Bust the window. Bust the window.
Where's the window punch? Window punch!
Window punch! Window punch! Window punch!
People cover. People cover, Sid.
Cover, cover!
I got cover, I got cover.
Get down.
Umbrella. She's up, she's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So recently in Philadelphia, there is another case of another black man, another brother, running from the police and was shot in the back. Now let's look at what happened that would result in another black man running away from the police being shot in his back.
The gunfire erupted after the officer pulled the dirt bike rider over.
It happened in the 4200 block of Whitaker Avenue in North Philadelphia. Eyewitness News reporter Alexandria Hoff is live at the scene tonight. Alex.
Well, Yuki, Jessica, here is what we have just learned from police, that the deceased male was armed with what appeared to be a semi-automatic weapon and that he pulled that weapon out anyway, even though he was ordered not to. Now, the other part of this story is that a portion of this was caught on surveillance footage, and that has given Police Commissioner Richard Ross reasons to have initial concerns. Cries of distress rang out from the intersection of Whitaker and East Hunting Park Avenue. That is where police say around 6:40 p.m. a man was shot and killed by a Philadelphia police officer. It began with an officer who was transporting witnesses to the Special Victims Unit who pulled over to speak with a dirt bike rider who, according to witnesses, was riding dangerously.
My understanding is he was just coming over to tell the guy just to knock it off and not to drive like that. I don't think he was coming to give him a ticket. I don't think he was coming to try to apprehend him.
Police Commissioner Richard Ross says that the officer noticed the man had a gun tucked in his waistband and ordered the man not to pull it out. Those witnesses in the back of the officer's car said that the man did so anyway.
According to the witness in the back seat, that male pulled away from the officer and pulled that gun. At some point, that officer does discharge at least one time right around that location. It is important to note that inside this business, there's a video of at least part of the encounter. We are looking for other video. Candidly speaking, part of that video does show that this male was running away for at least one of those shots.
Well, Jim and Rahel, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross said last night and repeated again this morning that there are aspects of this officer-involved shooting that alarm him. Most notably, surveillance video from this business just behind me that appears to show the man who was shot running away from police when he was fatally wounded.
Video, you see the man turning the corner and running away from the officer. Then the officer fires, striking him in the back. He later died in the hospital. Take a look at this exclusive surveillance video. You see the man turning the corner and running away from the officer. Then the officer fires, striking him in the back. He later died in the hospital.
Authorities say the officer-involved shooting began when a 15th precinct officer was driving down Whitaker Avenue, transporting witnesses to the Special Victims Unit. The officer says he was alarmed when he noticed a man driving a dirt bike erratically. The dirt bike stalled and the officer decided to pull up next to it. The officer got out and began to frisk the man on the bike. He felt a gun inside the man's waistband and jumped back. The officer drew his weapon and says the man pulled away from him and grabbed for the gun. Surveillance video nearby captures the man running away from the officer when he was fatally wounded by the officer. The man had already dropped the loaded 9mm gun. His family at the scene yesterday outraged and emotional. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross also alarmed.
I'm not really concerned at this time about DA charges or anything like that. That wasn't my concern. My concern is about the fact that it doesn't meet departmental protocol.
And it's important to note that the surveillance video that has surfaced so far only shows one angle when the man turns his corner and he is shot and fatally wounded. It does not show what happened with him and the officer right around here. Authorities today saying they're looking for that surveillance video to be able to tell the full story.
So, first of all, I have no idea why this particular police officer was pulling over this man. He could have radioed it in and said, well, I see a black suspect riding a legal bike down the street. Could someone stop him? But this particular officer who was transporting victims of a crime, why would he even be interacting with David Jones in the first place? That in itself put the victims of a crime in danger. So it doesn't matter what happens after that. We should be holding him accountable for that alone. So while he's transporting his family to the police station, he decides to stop and violate this man, David Jones' Fourth Amendment rights of illegal search and seizure, and finds out that he has a gun on him, which in the state of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, can you have guns on you? Yes, you can. You just have to have a permit. Can you have your guns concealed? Yes, you just have to have a license to carry a concealed weapon. So him having a gun on him at all doesn't justify him being shot. You can't say that. He was well in his Second Amendment right to bear arms. Until you can prove otherwise, innocent until proven guilty. There isn't even a ban on assault weapons in Philadelphia. Now, the cop says this guy was reaching for his gun, and that's why he even started shooting. And the police chief says, the witness says the guy wasn't complying. But if you ask the witness himself, even he will say, well, that shooting was not justified. There was no reason for them to shoot that man. The witness will tell you at the time he was murdered, he didn't have his gun because he dropped it on the ground. The gun was over there where the officer was, and this man was running around the corner. And now you can see in the video, the police officer shot past his police car with the witness or the victims to a crime, which they call witnesses. He shot past them and shot this man in the back. Now, I don't know how many laws or violations that this cop committed all in this one instance, but it doesn't matter. You still will have the same people saying, back the police, back the blue. We support the police 100% no matter what they do, except for when you have incidents like that recent incident that happened with that nurse where she got arrested for not letting the police take blood samples. You don't see that back the blue crowd show up for instances like that. They ain't nowhere to be found. Again, just highlights the hypocrisy that they have. There is an outrage when something happens to a quote-unquote innocent white woman. where, by the way, she wasn't even taken to the police precinct. She wasn't beat up. She wasn't illegally searched. All they did was put her in handcuffs and throw her in the back of the car. But yet, somehow, when these quote-unquote violent thugs, who are just happen to be black men, armed or unarmed, now this police state and this police brutality is justified. And of course you hear so many people say, well, it's a different circumstance. She was a professional. She was at her job. There was no reason for this. You forgot about the man who was a behavioral therapist who was out with an autistic patient and the cop shot him. He was laying face down on the street, spread eagle, trying to get an autistic person to calm down and lie down with him, who was carrying a toy train or toy truck or whatever he had, and he was shot in the leg. Now, in the case of David Jones, no matter how many violations the cop did, no matter how many things wrong the cop did, people will still find ways to justify the murder of another one of our brothers. Because at this point, we should be past surprised that stuff like this is happening. We should be at the point of responding and protecting ourselves and defending ourselves. We should have been past the point of putting tribalisms to the side and being divided over gender or religion or nationality or anything else that we're divided on. Because regardless of what they disagree on, what they do agree on is whiteness at the end of the day. They learn how to put down tribalism and put race above everything. And until we can learn how to do that and protect ourselves, we are all at danger. Our men, our women, and especially our children. And if we can't do that for our children and for the sake of future generations, then we're going to continually be in this cycle. It was our ancestors that came together, despite of what they say about issues that the black community has had and all the stuff that they like to talk about the black community. Our ancestors came together to get us from the point that we were in America to the harshest times of slavery to the times that we are today. And to say that we haven't made progress would be disrespectful to our ancestors. But to say that we have made it and that we're good where we at would also be disrespectful to our ancestors. We have to continue this movement to put our future generations in a position where they control their own resources, they control their own government, they control their own land, where they control their own destiny. We have to put them in a position where they can be protected worldwide, no matter where they decide to live, because they have a way to protect themselves, because they have built a nation who will come and have their back. For all the horrible ideals and talking points that they've instilled in us, the one thing that we should take from them was their ability to put aside whatever tribalism mindset that they do have in order to maintain a white dominated society. We have to learn how to come together and put aside our tribalisms to build a nation that would protect us and to help us thrive.
Tonight we talked to a witness who saw the whole thing happen. He was just feet away from the gunfire. Good evening, I'm Erin Coleman.
And I'm Keith Jones. Since NBC 10 showed you that video, questions, protests, and concerns about policing from the stop to the shooting.
We were the only television station to sit down with that eyewitness. I talked to him and asked him, was the officer justified? His answer, no.
I feel unsafe for my family.
Terrence didn't want to reveal his last name, but he did want to tell what he saw the day David Jones was shot in the back and killed by a Philadelphia police officer. Terrence was in the back seat of this SUV with his two children, June 8th, on their way to speak with detectives about his son's abduction. Officer Ryan Poundhall was driving them. Terrence says they saw David Jones riding a dirt bike in Hunting Park. The bikes are illegal in the city of Philadelphia.
Pulled up skirt. I'm taking it. That's what he's saying. So Mr. Jones still sitting on the bike.
Terrence says the officer tried to pat down Jones. There was a struggle. Jones broke free and ran. He says the officer first tried to tase him, then he shot 3 times.
I could hear him. He had an effing gun. I said, the gun right here.
Terrence says the whole ordeal was traumatic. Did you feel that your life was in danger?
Absolutely it was. Absolutely, no question.
Not only for him, but for his 11-year-old daughter and 9-year-old son, who saw the whole thing too.
My daughter was sitting there in a police SUV like this.
Community activists like Chris Norris say Jones should have never been stopped in the first place, especially with the family in the SUV.
Well, I think that the officer didn't act reasonable, that the officer exhibited bad judgment, that the officer didn't have probable cause to stop Mr. Jones.
For Terrence, he says he's speaking out because he wants the whole story out there as he tries to explain what happened to his kids.
Daddy, did they have to kill that man? What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do?
I spoke with Police Commissioner Richard Ross this afternoon. He told me the investigation continues and he is taking this matter very seriously.
Backing the blue, members of the community gathered at Philadelphia's Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 5 tonight to show their support for law enforcement. Eyewitness News reporter David Spahn is live outside police headquarters with a look at the events that led to tonight's rally. David.
Jessica, huge turnout tonight in Northeast Philadelphia. Sure, the mission was to support police officers here, really, and across the world, but it was also to protest a controversial policy put forth by Mayor Kenney's administration. About 1,000 people packed the FOP Lodge 5 headquarters Thursday night to back the blue and thank police officers for their work.
So our police officers risk their lives for us every day, and without them, we would have lawlessness.
Diane Thompson joined the crowd to not only support law enforcement members, but to protest a decision made by the Jim Kenney administration to release the names of police officers involved in on-duty shootings. The administration does so in the name of transparency. Last week, protesters showed up at the home of a police officer after the name was made public.
When you go to work each day, you shouldn't have to worry that a pack of rabid animals will suddenly show up at your home and openly threaten your family, as we saw last week.
That was a sham last week. It was a stain on the city of Philadelphia, and it should never happen again.
The goal of this crowd is to protect those names. Something is even being done to get lawmakers in Harrisburg on board.
This is what we need in this community, and to show support, all the people who's come out here tonight, show support for police officers, so all lives matter.
People in the crowd agree to hold off on releasing names, and they agree to support all law enforcement officers in Philadelphia and around the world.
Support our police! Right here! Thank you for what you do.
4 protesters showed up tonight. They were there for just a few minutes and then they left the premises.
John McNesby, the president of Philadelphia Police Union, called Black Lives Matter protesters, quote, a pack of rabid animals and a racist hate group determined to instigate violence. He made these remarks at a Back the Blue rally held on Thursday night to support the police force in response to a Black Lives Matter protest outside the house of Ryan Pownall, the police officer who shot and killed David Jones at a traffic stop this past June. Back in June, Pownall stopped Jones, who was driving a dirt bike, for reckless driving. According to the police report, Pownall felt a handgun in Jones's waistband as he pat him down. After a struggle, Jones allegedly grabbed his gun and Pownall fired, but it jammed. This is when Jones began running away and Pownall fatally shot him in the back. This is the second black man Pownall has shot in the back. Pownall shot Carnell Williams Carney, who is now 36 years old and has been in a wheelchair ever since 2010. The rally was held at the Fraternal Order of Police headquarters, of which McNesby is president. McNesby was quoted as saying, "When you go to work each day, you shouldn't have to worry that a pack of rabid animals will suddenly show up at your home and openly threaten your family. These are not activists. They are racist hate groups determined to instigate violence." In what should come as a surprise to nobody, last year McNesby defended a police officer who appeared to have a large Nazi tattoo on his forearm. When photos of Officer Ian Hans Lichterman popped up on Twitter with what many believed were symbols from Hitler's Nazi Party, Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney called the tattoo incredibly offensive. McNesby, on the other hand, said, "It's an eagle, not a big deal." Not a big deal at all. McNesby, who looks like he's about to give you a side quest that you've been avoiding the entire time, followed that it's just an eagle tattoo statement by saying that burning crosses were just really excited lowercase t's, and that the KKK members wore hoods to keep from spilling soup on their shirts. Asa Khalif, a Black Lives Matter activist in Philadelphia, said neither he nor fellow protesters were deterred by McNesby's words. "We will not let words stop us. The only words we're using is justice for David Jones, and we will not be sidetracked by the bullying tactics of the Fraternal Order of Police."
More fallout in North Miami from last year's police shooting of a behavioral therapist. The police chief, who's being forced out of his job, is now planning to sue the city. CBS 4's Aurelio Ortega has more from North Miami.
Firing the wrong people. Some heated moments during a community forum as the city of North Miami addresses the pending termination of North Miami Police Commander Emil Holland and Chief Gary Eugene.
Sworn statements given by Chief Gary Eugene directly contradicted the sworn statement given to the FDLE.
The chief was placed on paid administrative leave Thursday. The city plans to terminate his employment July 7th. Commander Emil Holland was also told of the city's intent to fire him. The city says its decision stems from an internal affairs investigation into a high-profile shooting involving unarmed mental health therapist Charles Kinsey last July. He was shot in the leg by Officer Jonathan Aleda, who was charged with attempted manslaughter in April. He remains on paid administrative leave. Most of those in attendance disagreed with the city's decision to terminate Chief Eugene and Commander Holland, but some commended the city for the way it's handled the investigation.
I certainly appreciate the effort each and every one of you all have been taking to make sure this is transparent.
Firing the commander and firing the chief is not the solution. You guys are commending these guys for making so much change, but it's fake change.
In a phone interview, Chief Eugene told us he was shocked to find out when he came back from his 5.5-week medical leave of the city's intent to terminate him.
They are looking for any reason to stop me of completing that investigation because I was still the chief as last Wednesday.
The chief says he plans to sue, claiming discrimination because the two people losing their jobs following the investigation are Haitian American.
We're a very diverse city. For anyone to claim that they're being discriminated because they're Haitian American, for me as a Haitian American, I kind of find that offensive.
I don't know if people totally get the scale of how unprecedented this, at this point, obvious blackballing is. In NFL history, there have been 144 seasons where a quarterback who was 29 years old threw at least 200 passes. 144 times that's happened. 142 times that quarterback's been on a roster the next year. The two that were not, Bobby Hebert, who held out for a contract and was in the league the following year, and Colin Kaepernick. So another way to say it, there are 140 plus guys have had a season, good, bad, amazing, awful, just where they played enough to throw 200 passes. Every single one of them that wanted to be in the league the next year was in the league the next year. Some of those guys got hurt. Some of those guys got benched. Some of those guys were awful. Some of those guys won Super Bowls. Every single one of them had a job the following season. So you don't even have to look at the fact that Colin Kaepernick, according to Football Outsiders, was the #1 red zone passer in football last year. You don't even have to look at the fact that Scott Tolzien is getting to start, that Blake Bortles is getting to start. Just his age and the fact that he was on the field for every other player in history got them a job the following year.
The only reason that I know that Colin Kaepernick wants to play football is because when he was invited to work out with Seattle, he went. Didn't work out, didn't make the team. I haven't heard from him since. I've done a number of hours of research just looking for something from him. I wanted to just hear something. Hey, I want to play football. I'm practicing. I should be out there. And not that he has to do it to get on a team, but I think it would be nice, and it goes a long way. We use the word blackballing. I think he needs to open his mouth and say something, whether it's for his social cause or for his job.
Have you heard Johnny Manziel talk this offseason?
Listen, I've heard Johnny Manziel at least speak. We know who Johnny Manziel is. We know what kind of person he is. We know what he wants to do. We know where he wants to party. We know all of that. I've also heard him say many times, I apologize. It's time to start over. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to turn over a new leaf.
So
I know all those things because I've read those things.
So what should Cap say?
How about...
Should he say, I'm sorry?
I don't think he needs to apologize. I think he needs to tell people what he wants.
Because the video that we showed, there were 2 other players kneeling next to Cap. You know where those guys are at? You know where they're going to be out on Sunday? They're going to be on the field playing ball like the rest of the players. You know what else is going to be happening week number 1? There's going to be more protests around the league. And you know what these guys are going to be doing? They're going to be playing ball. What are the owners going to do? They're going to turn a blind eye to the guys that are protesting now and continue to punish Cap.
Because those guys did it once they had permission. That's the key part of this.
He did it first.
He did it first. Those other guys did it once the team and the league said, we might not love you doing it, but you're allowed to do it. All I want is for people to be able to have an honest discussion about the football part of this. Now, I have very extreme opinions about the social part of this. And if you would like to contact me on Twitter, or if you would like to see me on the streets of New York, one moment, we can get into why I would march with Colin Kaepernick. But from a purely football perspective, this is an abomination. This is an embarrassment. And in the sport, more than any other sport, where the teams preach, sacrifice your health, sacrifice your family, sacrifice your long-term well-being for the betterment of the team. The fact that there is not the Jets who are trotting out Josh McCown, not the Rams who are trotting out Jared Goff, not the Niners this year who are trotting out Brian Hoyer, not the Jags who could win their division with a mediocre quarterback who are going to trot out Blake Bortles or Chad Henne. None of those teams want to set aside their politics to put a player on the roster who is better than what they've got. How can you then ask these guys to go out there and play through pain when you are not putting winning first?
Why in the world are they asking Cam Newton, before he's getting ready to play his first regular season game, about Colin Kaepernick? Why? Why are they talking about Colin Kaepernick?
Because he's not on a roster.
Because it's a distraction. Because there's no reason for it other than it's an issue. And if they're talking to Colin Kaepernick and Von Miller and Aaron Rodgers and guys all across the league, imagine what they would be doing in the actual locker room or on an actual team.
We don't have to imagine it. We
know.
Jenna, we know.
Yes,
and his teammates found it such a distraction, they voted him Man of the Year. And his coach found him such a distraction, he advocates for him.
Yeah.
So go. Listen, there's something that I think that people need to know. I'm sick and tired of people talking about distractions. All right? It's a made-up term. All right? When you're in the NFL locker room, on a given Wednesday, today, the media is allowed in the locker room for 30 minutes. All right? The star players, the media arrange a spot to talk to them. Now, that's not every day. Colin Kaepernick's either going to talk on Wednesday or he's going to talk on Thursday. He's not going to be talking the rest of the week. All right? The players in the locker room, we're not talking about it. So all these people who have never played in the NFL locker room, never been in the NFL locker room, they swear up and down, oh, this is a distraction. I played with guys or been good friends with teammates who played with guys who were accused of murder, and all types of other ugly acts. You know something about those guys? They weren't distractions. Guys accused of violent crimes, they're in NFL locker rooms. They're not a distraction.
CC, I've covered teams. I've been in the locker rooms on the Wednesdays, on media day, on Fridays. I've been in there every single time. And you know this, the way it works is players come out for a few minutes, then they go back in. The way it would work here is Eli Manning can have an amazing game. He can come in on Wednesday, and guess what? You're still going to, you know what they do. The media just sits and camps out. They're going to camp out around Colin Kaepernick's locker.
They're camping out every NFL locker room.
Right, and even though they say no more questions, it's all going to be about this, and it's going to continue on through the season. Now, if you don't want to call it distraction, you don't have to.
It's not a distraction.
But it is going to take away from 100% of focus on the team winning. Yeah, and these owners are only in the business to win and to make money.
Well, then,
they are, Nick.
Hold on. Well, then I'm gonna take this to an uncomfortable place for everyone, but I feel like I have I lived in Houston. I own a home in Houston. I had someone staying in my home in New York for 10 days this past week because they couldn't get back to Houston. I have friends and family there. I empathize and I feel for what that city went through. Is what J.J. Watt did a distraction? J.J. Watt he did a that's not about football. He did a fundraiser. He's tweeting about it every day. People are asking his teammates about it. Is that a distraction? No. Why? Oh, because he's fighting for a good cause.
This all started because of Neil. He did it on his own time, Nick.
Jenna, but you were talking about what people are going to ask his teammates. Is that a distraction? I'm asking you, is it a distraction when people ask
You don't think it's possible to have a very positive distraction where a guy raises $20 million and another one where all of a sudden...
Bingo.
How is that bingo?
Because there is the matter of perspective.
Yes.
The matter of perspective is what J.J. Watt's cause is righteous and amazing. Colin Kaepernick's cause is a little controversial. Guess what? Both of those guys, their cause has one thing in mind. Saving lives.
Look, I'm going to finish it with this, all right? You know what's going to be a distraction? When you put those bums out there.
All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, everybody know what's going on with the Kaepernick situation in the NFL and how he's being blackballed in the league. And there are some players who still with him, even though there were some who didn't. But Michael Bennett, who is also great at what he does, he was a player who decided to stand with Colin Kaepernick. And he recently accused the police of committing police brutality on him. And he has video evidence of the situation.
I got you. Put him in the back. What? I wasn't doing nothing. Okay, God. I wasn't doing nothing, man. You ain't asked me a question. I was here with my friends. They told us to get out. Everybody ran. Did you ask me a question, sir? Okay, man. Put hands together.
Now, in this video, this black man who is rich and famous, because of course, you know, if you're rich and famous, you don't have to worry about racism anymore. He looked like an average black man on the street. Now, a lot of people can say, well, this is fake, this is a hoax, this is whatever. And you may have a point if there wasn't like 350 years of evidence. I mean, most of us have experienced this whole thing ourselves. We have been telling you this for hundreds of years. I've experienced this myself. If you fit the description, you fit the description. Black male, 6'7" to 5'2", 110 pounds to 370. You fit the description. And just as a person speaking from experience with it happening to me, it's more obvious than you think you are, because they think they're being subtle. But when you're being profiled, it's obvious. I've been pulled over when I was doing nothing wrong, when I was being profiled, and I've been pulled over when I have been doing something wrong. And when they pull you over for something that you really did wrong, they'll tell you. They'll be like, oh, you ran the red light. You went through the stop sign. You was going up a one-way street. Let me see your license and registration. When they actually have a case, they are so upfront with you. But when they start profiling, all of this stuff gets a little vague. You can't ask no questions. Instead of telling you what you did wrong, they start asking questions like, where you coming from? Where you going? Why are you around here? And if you ask, why'd you pull me over, officer? They'll just say, well, get out of the car and put you in handcuffs and go look up your information for 20 minutes while you sitting on the sidewalk in handcuffs. And we know some cops are blatantly out in the open, just racist people. They don't like black people. They are part of these neo-Nazi groups. They are KKK members who join the cops. We know that. We know that cops like that exist. And people will say, well, you know, that's a small group of people. That's just the bad cops. And there aren't that many of them, which I don't know how many of them that there are. And even if there were a small amount, how would I know the good ones from the bad ones? But even for the good ones, they are still regular people who have been programmed to see black people in a specific light. Like, for instance, if you ask your average person, 2 or 3 black men coming down the street, they could just be wearing white tees, God forbid if they have dreads or anything. You start getting a little bit nervous. You start thinking about defending yourself, or are they going to try to rob me or hurt me in some kind of way? But if you see 2 or 3 white boys, unless they got tattoos on their face or something, you don't get those kind of feelings. And it's not only white people. Black people ourselves are programmed to look at ourselves as this kind of way, as some kind of threat to each other. So just imagine how your average white person feels. This is just a common theme that runs throughout American history. America and Americans want to depict themselves as the good guy, as the hero, and they can only do that by making everybody else look like the bad guy. So despite all the crimes that they have done to us and still do to us, you are the criminals. Despite of everything that they stole, you are the thieves. And despite of how many horrible things America has done, the genocides, the slavery, the Black Holocaust that America has committed, that it was built on Christian principles. And even though Christian principles justify slavery, it does not justify slavery of other Christians, especially for life and the way that they treated them. And the only way they can justify this treatment on our people was to say that we were the violent criminals, the violent thugs, and that we're not even human, which today they would just say, you fit the description. This is what this nation was built on. It's how it got its wealth. It's how it got its power. If you take that away, it would collapse. And you know, you hear people say, well, go back to Africa, when in reality, they would fight us not to go back to Africa, because if we were in control of the natural resources in Africa, then the world would have to come through us. We can shut the world out, and the world couldn't survive. We would be the only place that can survive without importing from other places. They wouldn't dare send us back to such a rich nation to become rich and control our own destinies, to build our own sports leagues like we had before when we had the Negro Leagues. These were the best players. And not only would you be the millionaire players, you would be the billionaire owners. You would have your own government and your own education system and be in charge of the mindset and the principle that are instilled in your children. And in reality, they do not want that. But we have to want that for ourselves in order to achieve it. But they also don't want you to talk about the issues that you do face here in America. They just want you to be quiet and accept it. Because if you mention any of these issues, now you're a Black Lives Matter terrorist in their eyes. When really, it's not a lot of black people who are members of the Black Lives Matter organization. Most black people, if you ask them, will say, well, no, I'm not a Black Lives Matter activist. But if you ask most black people, do you agree with the phrase Black Lives Matter? They would say yes, because they are black. Their family is black. But as a black man in America, if you speak up for black rights and black power, you could be looked at as racist, as anti-American, as a terrorist, even if you're just asking for equality, even if you're asking not to be killed. You cannot ask anybody who has the power, who is in a dominant position, to give you any power, because they could always just take it away. We have no other choice but to empower ourselves and protect it.
handcuff. 10-4.
Holster your weapon, man. Holster your weapon. What can I do for you?
What do you mean holster my weapon?
Well, you pulling your weapon, so I'm telling you holster your weapon because you got nothing to fear. My hands are clearly in.
Okay, what are you doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in my vehicle working. Why?
You some kind of PI or something?
Does it appear that I'm doing something illegal?
I don't know.
Okay, so
step out for me.
We just went through this. Your other deputies end up in federal court. Please take your hands off of me.
122.
Get your watch commanders out here. Please get your watch commander out here. Get your watch commander out here. I'm asking you for your watch commander.
Got anybody else in here?
Nobody's in here. I'm asking. I'm not being uncooperative at all.
You are being uncooperative.
How am I being uncooperative?
Because you're not doing what I'm telling you to do.
First of all, deputy, you pulled up here, you took a look-see, I rolled my windows down for you.
Okay.
My hands are clearly visible.
Okay.
And now you're grabbing on me.
You just stay right there. Okay.
I haven't moved.
Okay.
So could you please let go of my wrist?
No, I'm not going to let go of your wrist.
Fine.
Just stay right
You need your watch commander.
Okay, we'll get to all that.
I'm going to ask you again, could you please put your weapon up?
No.
Okay. I didn't hear you request a watch commander.
I don't need a request a watch commander.
I'm asking for your watch commander.
We'll get to all that when we're done with you.
I'm asking for your watch commander, Deputy
Plunkett.
Plunkett. I'm asking for your watch commander.
Okay, we'll get him over here.
Your hands are shaking. That makes me feel very nervous.
Well, you're making me nervous.
Why am I making you nervous?
You're not doing what I'm telling you to do.
I haven't did anything that you asked me to do. You haven't asked me to do anything.
I told you to step out.
You didn't tell me to step out.
I did.
You want me to step out?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna wait now.
That's fine. But your hand doesn't need to be on me. I'm sitting here. My hands are in plain sight.
Yeah, it's affirmative.
Ask for the watch commander, please.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, I need your horsepower.
We'll get to all that.
Okay.
In good time.
Right.
No, don't be reaching.
Man, I'm taking it.
Don't be reaching.
You put your gun is shaking and you pointing your gun at my head.
Pointing my gun at your head. Don't fucking reach. I told you not.
Man, I took my earpiece off.
Do not fucking reach.
Man, you need to put your weapon down. You need to put your weapon down, man.
I'm not gonna do nothing.
Hey, you need to get over here, senior. He's got his weapon at me and he's shaking.
What's going on right now?
It's nothing going on, deputy. He's got his weapon pointed at my head. I haven't done a thing. He came up here. He put his hands on me. I asked for a watch commander. He's pulling his weapon on me. For what? For what?
I told you what for.
For what?
You're not listening to my commands. Not that I know of.
For what? What is he pulling his weapon on me for? I asked for his watch commander. You the sergeant.
Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Put your hands on the steering wheel.
Hey, your guy
Put your hands on the steering wheel.
Your senior sergeant's here.
Put your hands on the fucking
Would you tell him to
wheel.
drop?
What's going on?
Why is your officer cursing at me?
What's going on?
Why is your officer cursing at me?
Just do what he tell you.
Excuse me, sergeant.
I understand.
My hands were in plain sight when he came up. I put my hands out in plain sight. Okay? I see. He asked me. He started being basically disrespectful, telling me, what am I doing here? Would you please tell him to put his weapon down?
What do you... You got the taser?
Bonnie's getting it. Bonnie's getting it.
What's going on? What are you doing here?
I'm code 5.
Where do you work?
Where do I work? I work as a private investigator. And I just got through dealing with this in federal court with you guys. He pulled his weapon. All I did was remove my earpiece, and he pulled his weapon and pointed at my head. And he's still pointing his weapon at my head. I'm asking you to tell him to holster his weapon.
Yo, I want all y'all to see this. They harassing me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sitting in front of my man's crib. Like,
I'm not saying that. What did y'all pull over us? What did y'all pull over for?
what is you doing? Can I have my ID?
You don't have to sit here and stick a camera.
I can record what I want. Like, what's good with you?
Facts.
I'm gonna record y'all as long as I want. Like, y'all keep harassing me.
Dude, I ain't never harassed you.
Well, y'all all with the same uniform.
The same hair as you, and I stopped.
Y'all all with the same uniform.
12 times.
And y'all know what y'all
It wasn't
doing.
me, man. What? It wasn't me.
Y'all all with the same uniform. So what are y'all pulling up for though? Like, I'm confused.
I just told you. I should have got it on video, but
You never told me why. What do you say?
I just told you why. I
For
told
what?
you we have a bolo for somebody that matches your description.
Yo,
Second
every time, bro. Every time.
Dreads, dude.
What?
Dye your dreads.
My dreads are dyed. What are you talking about?
Dye them back.
Yo, no, I'm not doing shit. I don't have to do.
Ask me why we're doing it.
I don't have to do shit. Yo, can I get out my can I get out the whip, please?
Out the whip?
Yeah.
You can get out of your car.
Thank you. Like, what are you talking about?
You're watching you coming out like that for.
I don't do a bro. Y'all just wilding like.
We'll be back. Wilding. Did you get that on camera? You said be back next week. Fuck for what? Hold on, like this is mad as hell. Cause
Yeah, what the f now?
I don't care.
What the f they do that for?
We'll be back next week. For no reason, bro. We didn't do shit, bro. Damn, I don't get it, bro. I really don't get it. What? You're walking down the middle of the street. I'm over being white line. You're being instructed. No, I'm not. You can't just put your hands on me like this. Do not do that. Do not do that. Put your hand on. Put your hands over here. What? Damn! Now you're in the squad car. You gonna take me to jail for that shit? Didn't say I'm taking you to jail. Okay, so can you put your hand off me?
Maybe you could just help show him where a good place to walk is.
Not on the roadway.
I know, I'm saying maybe you could just suggest that he go to it at the other side and help him. Maybe you could just help him know where the right place to walk is.
Ma'am, could you please step back? Take your hand off me. Yes, I have. Okay. You haven't. I know my rights. Remain silent. I didn't do nothing. And you got your hand on me. Okay, I will walk somewhere else. Okay, we've gone beyond that just a little bit. It's closed. We've gone beyond that. Yo, we haven't. That's bullshit, and you know it. Okay, why are you being this way? Because look at the fuck you got your hand on me for. Y'all walking on the damn sidewalk. Fuck you, man. Dude, this come back for what? I remain silent. Settle down. What happened? Nigga, take me to jail, bitch. Give a fuck. This bullshit, get your hand off me.
He's scared, sir.
Like I'm doing something to you. You got your hand on me.
It's
Did I put my
scary.
hand on you? Settle down. Fuck you. Your hand off me, damn. I already did 2 my fucking bad. And I ain't got no money to pay for it.
He's black.
Settle down. Fuck you. Yeah, that language you can't use in this neighborhood, okay? Okay, well, can I keep walking in the neighborhood? Why not? Because we're going to have a discussion about a whole bunch of stuff that's going on right now. What's going on?
Why don't you just help him?
Ma'am, that's how it started. That's how it
No, I watched the whole thing. I just pulled around him and watched you. You never tried to help him.
You got your hand on me. Sir, I'm asking you. For what? What do you want me to do? Can I at least go sit down? Just settle down. All right, I'm settling down. You gonna take your hand off me? Settle down. I will. When you take your hand off me. Put your hands up. So you gonna arrest me now? I don't know if we're going that far. No, I got the remind your name silent. That's bullshit.
But he didn't do anything.
He didn't do fucking shit. My damn bag. It ain't mine. 142. Oh. 59 and 13. Can you take your fucking hand on me? Dude, okay. Dude, we going fuck on, man. I'm not doing shit. He ain't going nowhere. Fuck on, man. Damn. Grabbing on me like that. He ain't going nowhere. Now, you told me to calm down. I calmed down. He ain't going nowhere. I grabbed my shit. My hands out of my pockets. Hey, you're not making this easy. What the fuck you want to talk to me for walking on the damn sidewalk? Bullshit. No, I don't. 59, 41. Don't grab on me. Please do not touch me, dude. No, I'm going to jail for disorderly conduct.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you that.
Ask me again for what?
All right?
For what?
Settle down.
For what? I didn't do shit.
There's no reason he couldn't just show him where an okay place to walk.
Yeah, I'm on the right side of the damn
You
line.
have not yet complied to any request.
That's bullshit. I don't have to. I remain silent, man. Fuck you. That's bullshit. Turn around. You're under arrest. For what? My partner told me you're under arrest. Turn around.
No, he never said that.
Sure,
He never said that. He said he was not.
Under arrest. You're lying.
You could have just shown him where to walk really kindly. You are the one that incited this.
Okay, before we start, I'm not armed. My hands are up. My hands up? My hands are up. I am armed, but my hands are up. My hands are up. Okay. You see right there? That is a camera. Yes, sir. Okay? Now, what is your issue today? I don't have an issue. No, there was an issue because you was up there. Am I being detained, sir? Sir? Am I on suspicion of a crime? Yeah, disorderly conduct at that other bank. Am I on suspicion of a crime? I just answered your question. So am I being detained? What's your name, sir? It's obvious what my name is. No, I'm asking, sir. Sergeant Atkins. How you doing? And what's your name, sir? Officer Clyde. How you doing, sir? What is your name? All right. Am I being detained? What is your name? Sir, in the state of Tennessee, I'm not required. You just asked me my name. Okay, then let me see your ID because sir, I am in the state of Tennessee. I am required to see your ID anytime I ask. Am I on suspicion of? Let me have the ID, sir. Am I on suspicion of a crime? Let me have your ID, sir. Am I being detained? Let me have your ID, sir. Let me have your ID. Sir, in the state of Tennessee, if I'm not being detained, sir. Wait a minute. Wait. Sir, you're getting aggressive. I'm investigating. You're getting aggressive with me, sir. Can you walk back? Can you give me 50 feet? My hands are up. 50 feet? My hands are up, sir. I'm not going to shot across the parking lot. My hands are up. Okay. My hands up. Arms across, too. Can you walk away from me, please, sir? Let me see your ID. Am I being detained? Let me see your ID. Am I being detained? Let me see your ID. Sir, I'm asking a question. Can I speak to your lieutenant, please? Can you call your lieutenant on the scene, please? Oh, no, I'm the ranking official today. Okay, am I being detained, sir? I'm asking you a question about... I understand your question, but am I being detained? I just want to know, am I being detained? Am I on suspicion of a crime, sir? Nothing didn't happen, sir. I just left. I haven't done anything wrong because if I done something wrong, this bank would have made me leave too, sir. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just trying to cash a check. The only thing I'm asking is, am I being detained or am I on suspicion of a crime? That's up to the sergeant. My hands are up, sir. My hands are crossed. Do y'all have a lieutenant on the scene? Because I don't feel safe right now. Why don't you feel safe? Because I don't feel safe. I'm standing quite a bit of ways away. I have every right to feel this way, sir. Because as a black man, y'all are killing us every day. So I don't feel safe. Do you have a lieutenant I can speak with, sir? Can you call your lieutenant? Okay, can I speak to your mayor then? Which he's the official person here of Oakland, Tennessee. I'll talk to your mayor, please. Can you call your mayor down? Okay, can you call someone that represent the mayor? Because that guy is really aggressive. You're not aggressive. He walking towards me, sir. He has a firearm, and I don't know what he's going to do. Well, I can assure you he's not going to do anything. I'm not armed, sir. I didn't say that you weren't. I just want to know, am I on suspicion of a crime or am I being detained?
Like a clown, just like you are. A clown.
I'm not a clown, bro.
You a clown. You a clown. Shut up. Do your job over there. How you over here and you supposed to be over there?
There's plenty of people here.
Fuck out of here. Exactly my point. Why three of y'all need to pull over one person? Fuck out of here. You sound like a clown. You sound like a clown, Duke. Shut the fuck up. You sound like a clown. Fuck you, wrong person. Yeah. You just came over here sound like a bitch. Fuck out of here. He got nothing better to do than record. You sound like a faggot. Only girls talk about people behind their back. You thought I wouldn't hear you, you faggot. Shut up. Shut up. Nobody cares. I'm just making sure y'all do your job correctly. I see two black brothers getting...
Thank you, Attorney General.
You're welcome. Two black brothers being pulled over. I need to pull out my phone.
There's a bunch of minorities here. We're all minorities.
You ain't no minority.
What am I?
You a bitch.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the brother David Jones, another brother who ended up dead after interacting with the police, which goes to show what Colin Kaepernick was talking about. And Michael Bennett, who supported him, who could have ended up like that man who was shot in the back. And we've seen it before. Oscar Grant, Alton Sterling. We've seen it time and time again. We have hundreds of years of the same shit happening over and over. And when we decide to put aside whatever tribalism differences we have for the greater benefit of our people worldwide, we don't have to worry about what they do. We don't have to make other people aware of what we're going through. We have to be aware of what we're going through and find a way to stop it ourselves. So, as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.